Allegedly, I'm live somewhere. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hello. It's happening.
It's happening? Great. Oh yeah,
Yes.
my
Who
the
knows?
YouTube.
Who knows how much of that was also
Yeah.
part of it? Anyway, hello, everyone, and welcome to Nonfiction Book Club. We're back again.
Once again.
Here we are. And we are back again to discuss Your Brain on Art. We got to introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm Nicole.
Yeah.
This is my YouTube
I'm
channel.
Toki.
That's it.
I'm invading the channel. Yeah. And I also forgot that we even expand past our names at this point and just cut you off and was like, this is my name.
No, that's it. Yeah. I mean, really, I have this beautiful word art here to tell you what our names are, so I don't know why we bothered.
We have our aesthetic nailed. It's the art we used when we were 10 in art, like in computer class, and realized that Microsoft could do aesthetic things.
That's the energy that we're trying to capture here in Nonfiction Book Club.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us by Susan Magsamen and Ivy Ross. This book is, as usual, what it says on the tin. This is about, the thesis of this book is art is good for you. Art is good for your brain and your body, and you should make art and consume art and be around art. And every chapter is like a bunch of different examples of different studies on the effects of art. Chapter 1 is the anatomy of arts. 2 is cultivating well-being, restoring mental health, healing the body, amplifying learning, flourishing, and creating community. But really, it's all just like different ways that art is helpful to people. Did I miss anything important?
I think that's the book.
That's the book. That's the one.
Yeah.
In many ways, this was like the simplest one to explain because it's just.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's really interesting that we did this book after our last book, Empire Incorporated, because they're like such different reading experiences, and yet also for me, I will say, also weirdly similar reading experiences.
Okay. Explain.
For the opposite reasons. Okay, so for those of you who are not here for our last nonfiction book club, we talked about this book that I picked called Empire Incorporated. Yeah, I take full ownership of what happened, what transpired. It was not a bad book. This is Deboki's
apology tour. She's so sorry.
Yeah. And I say that also with respect for the author. It was not a bad book. It was a book that I think all of us had difficulty reading because it was extremely dry and like detailed in ways that ultimately for me did not help me learn what was being conveyed.
Yeah.
This book is much more simple. It's the science is very simple as explained. The arguments, I would say, are also pretty simple. There's not a lot of like nuance or challenging, I would argue, in this book. It's pretty straightforward all the way through. And so my thing with Empire Incorporated is that book completely washed over me. I absorbed so little of it because I had such a hard time reading it. And then with this, on the other side, I also found it kind of washing over me. And I don't know that I really absorbed a lot of it, but for the opposite reason, in a sense, because there wasn't like a lot to really grapple with or think about, Like that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
until the end, and we can talk about the end because I feel like I listened to this book on audiobook, and because all my reading these days is like basically during like
while
daycare
you're holding
drop-off.
a baby or transporting a baby. Yeah.
Exactly.
Centered around the movement of a baby.
Yeah. There's like no like other principle right now that describes when I read books these days.
Yeah.
And so I ended up like mostly reading this on audiobook, and my plan was to like go back into the book and like write up notes and everything, and I just like never really like felt compelled to do that. Like there was nothing that I was like, oh, this is something I want to note later, like go back in and write something or tab something. And then we got to like the last part, and the entire time at like the epilogue, conclusion, whatever, which is about like the future of art, when we got to that part, like I was like, oh, I have thoughts. Like, this is actually, like, of all the things, like, I said all of this about how the book I didn't feel like I had much to grapple with. And we got to the end, and I was like, oh, I think there are things now that I, like, want to grapple with, but it's, like, such a short section that even then there's really not that much to engage with. Yeah. It's just like, oh, I disagree with you.
Yeah.
Like, I think I disagree about what things are good about the future of art.
Yes.
And like, that reminds me, when was this book published?
I think 2023.
Okay, so like right before AI, or right around AI,
it's there. Yeah, it's that ChatGPT existed.
Yeah, and because the framing of AI is inherently positive in the context of generative art, I was just like, like I assumed that this was like a Chat GPT thing, because they just said that so like taking it for granted that I inherently agreed with them, and I was just like, no,
but I very much don't. I'm actually I've gone from being passively absorbing this to like actively pissed off at you, like really
and then,
quickly.
Like coming off of having read Mood Machine, they get to this part about personalized playlists.
Yeah.
No. Personal playlist bad. That's
I'm gonna fight you.
yeah, and like there's nuance to my like these things are bad opinions, but like still, like I was just like, oh, this is the first time. Like I remember like reading this entire book and feeling like that very like wash over my brain experience, and feeling like, well, like this book has done nothing offensive. I don't think it's a bad book. I understand why. I think it probably sold pretty well. Like I assume it did really well. Like I get all of that from this, and I find nothing inherently offensive about it. And then I got to the end and I was like, oh, I think I don't like this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I've made everything freeze. I did a bad. Let's see if I can get it back. I was trying to, you were sounding very peaky, and I was trying to fix it. I broke myself in the process. Hold please, everybody, while I attempt to make my video come back and not look like that. But maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just be frozen like that for the rest of this time, and I'll just have to get over that. Let's see. Hold on. Maybe okay. Now I'm gone. So I'm at least not frozen like that, because I really wasn't enjoying.
And it's once again just me, and I am here.
Hello. No, I'm here. I'm just I just turned off my video so that I wouldn't have to be frozen in that particular.
See yourself unfrozen.
Yeah, I found that unpleasant.
Understandable.
I wasn't loving that experience. Anyway, oh gosh. Okay, so I have sorry. I just got distracted by this and lost the plot a little. I have so many feelings about all of that. I had very much the same experience with this book, which is that, most of it was just happening. It was just sort of washing over. Like I was physically reading along. I actually stopped about halfway through, partially because I was like, every chapter is kind of the same. Like every chapter is the same. And it's like not, that like there's not enough new,
Yeah.
there's not enough like happening or changing in any of this for me to feel the need to keep trying to follow along with my eyeballs.
Yeah.
So meh. um
Yeah.
but like I don't know, I wasn't having a bad time with it. I just was like, okay, I get it, I get the thing that we're doing here. It's maybe a little repetitive, and whatever, but like beyond that, that's fine. um I just feel like yeah, like it was fine. The up until we get to the conclusion, I would describe literally everything less the conclusion of this book as like a solid 3-star experience. And then that conclusion really, really pissed me off, especially because of how divorced it was from the things that the rest of the book was saying. Like the way that it was
Yeah.
talking about generative AI was just like so baffling to me. Colby's point here about like Colby says, I wasn't surprised about the AI take since one of the authors works on Google's hardware team. That's a really good point. And nonetheless, I was caught off guard. Like I still was just like, I don't know, just didn't see that coming. And it frustrated me to no end.
And there's a way in which the stuff in the conclusion, my hot take is that if the book had been more about that, I would have at least had more to say about it. Like I wouldn't be so like, again, like it wouldn't have just kind of gone over, just sailing by, whereas everything else like was so little about something. And the other, like the thing that I kept experiencing too is like I remember there was some stuff going on with the way that they explained the science early on, where I was like, oh, this is also like not the kind of science writing I enjoy. Like it was so like broad level that I think like I kept remembering why I often in particular don't like get super into neuroscience as like a thing to talk about, because it's so just like this thing gets turned on, this thing gets turned on, and that's your behavior. And I feel like it's like very simplistic and reductive in a way that I just don't find compelling. Like they talked really early on about this exhibit that they did where you like went through different rooms and like they were monitoring your like biomarkers, and just the way they explained it was so broad to me that like there's no ability for me as the reader to like think about what the science actually meant. Like I think it's a thing that you have to tread. Like I'm not saying like all experiments need to be explained in super hardcore detail. Like that's not what people are doing. But there's just something about it that for me was just like, I don't think that this is. Oh hi.
Hi.
Hello. I don't think there's like enough in here for me to really think about. And I remember like some of the way that they framed their results bothered me, because I was like, I don't know if the way that you're saying this actually means the results that you're saying, because I don't know enough about the setup of this experiment and like all the molecules that you're talking about to like reach as definitive of a conclusion as you're stating here. I don't know if that makes sense, because like I said, I think there's like such a weird line to tread when you're doing like science writing of how much technical detail to give. But I just found it frustrating. Like a lot of times the science was very unspecific. Like there's specific writing pet peeves that I can also point to, where like they would do comparisons but not really telling you what they're comparing to.
Hello.
Still didn't actually hit.
Hello. Sorry, I lost you for a second there. So they're doing comparisons, but not telling you what they're comparing to. And then, sorry, I didn't hear what you said at the end.
Yeah, and then other times they would kind of get more specific with the science, but in a way that still like didn't quite land. And so it just felt very Goldilocks-y, but like it just never quite landed the way that they were explaining the science either. And so like my big takeaway is that this book felt very TED Talky. Like it felt like it was telling me something about, yeah, I don't know, just like very like broad level in a way that like is fine. Again, like you said, 3 stars, it's okay. But it's just like wasn't gonna like give me a lot to kind of be like, oh, that really changes the way I see art.
Right.
And also that I'm getting a lot from this particular way of seeing art.
Yes, yes, and it, yeah, the experience that I kept having most of the time that I was reading this book, was like wrestling with what I wanted it to be versus what it was, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
really know
Yeah.
exactly what I wanted it to be, but I wanted it to
Yeah.
be not what it was.
Yeah. I'm curious because like this was like a book that you had picked up. Like so like when
Yeah.
you picked it up, do you have a sense of like not necessarily maybe I mean, okay, I know you just said you didn't know what you wanted to be, but like maybe like what you were like curious about, like what was like a question maybe you like were thinking about.
You know, I just had been like, I had been thinking a lot about, okay, let's see, the place in which I picked this book up from, like separate from this book, just like where my head was at, what I was, whatever, thinking about, interested in. I have been thinking a lot about how, um, uh, I don't feel like people are making enough active choice in the way that they are engaging with art, with anything, just like the endless scroll of like a TikTok, like that
Yeah.
or pretty much any social media. TikTok is, I think, probably the most egregious example of that. And so I like that foundational thought of like, I think that I don't know, I have like bits and pieces of like a very large argument brewing in my head around around just needing to go to just like actively go to a museum and like let yourself wander and decide what you're going to look at, or and like what you're going to take from it. And so
Right.
like those thoughts had been percolating in my head for like months, and I happened to be in the bookstore and saw this, and I was like, oh, this feels like it could be interesting. Absolutely useless for my purposes. Did not like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which like is not enough against the book. Like that's just
No,
like
it's
not what the book
not.
is. Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah.
And so
But
like,
also then what the book was
yes. Yes. Then the thing that the book was fine.
Yeah.
It just is fine,
Yeah.
and I'm sad that it's
Yeah, and
not
I think
better.
the thing that I was like uncomfortable with throughout the book, but I was sort of like, I think this might just be me. And then I think the conclusion really like was like, oh no, this isn't just me. Is it there's a sort of like underlying framing of art in this thing as like geared towards productivity. And that made me really uncomfortable. Like and I don't know how to say that like I don't mean that like the research and stuff in here is all about that, because I think like all of the applications they're talking about like are great. Like I think it's like really really valuable to understand like, hey, using art in these contexts can really really help people. So I felt like that was like something that I appreciated about the work that's in this book. But the framing overall felt like art is good because it's useful to us, and I'm so uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much to that argument that feels so like, just like art as commodity. And I don't, and also like art as a thing, like I mean, I think at one point they like quote something from Huberman Lab, and that for me was like, oh, okay, like that's a very like I associate that with like very like optimizing ourselves kind of like content, which maybe is not fair. I haven't listened to enough Huberman Lab, but like that's sort of what I think of. And there's something about that comment or that reference that just like put me in the mindset of like going forward, the framing of art in this book as like a thing that helps us like optimize our life or like reach another level of our life. And that's again like it's so hard because it's like I agree that art is like really great for this. It's just I'm like so uncomfortable with the idea that like that could be the point of art.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about so I agree with all of the like the sort of broader thing that you're saying in terms of like that art is more than just useful. I would like I'm not sure if I agree that that is all that's like truly what the book is saying. I think I don't know. Because I kind of feel like it's to me part of why it all felt sort of like very samey and very like whatever like is the you mentioned that like in the conclusion like there you like had the experience of being like, whoa, you're assuming that I agree with you in this way that is like nope, I sure don't. Back off.
Yeah.
And I feel like I feel like the book is like the sort of initial framing for the book is actually coming from like kind of almost the opposite place of like assuming that you need to convince me that art is useful. And so like I don't necessarily I don't know. To me it feels less like like trying to argue that art's value is as commodity like it, but it just feels like it's trying to convince a bunch of people who don't value art that it actually matters. So
right.
I don't know, which like to me makes me feel like there's a different I don't know. I don't necessarily.
I understand what you're saying, and I think that's the thing that's hard about it, because I think like yeah, maybe that's part of what's hard about it, where it's like I'm maybe not the right audience in that way for this book, because like I don't feel like and it gets to that underlying issue that I was having of like I don't get the value of looking at art in this way. Like I didn't get anything from knowing that, you know, the art activates these neurons. I don't like I'm not getting anything from that. And like because the conclusion that they're taking, the next step was like, oh, and that has this effect on your brain.
Right.
And like look, I'm a bio person. I think it's always cool to know the mechanisms. Like I'm not like that, like I agree with, but like I'm not getting any more insight about my relationship to art from the way that they're presenting it.
Right.
And so I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense in that context of like, I think they have a different audience in mind for this book.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I remember thinking this at one point, that the audience for this book is like tech people. And like that is like that that is the thing that makes it uncomfortable for me too.
Yes, the audience for this book is very much tech people and like I don't know. I'm actually genuinely very curious what their takeaway is, you know, like what how do you how is that?
I mean, like I feel like the takeaway for me, like when I've been in more of that productivity mindset, is like I have to commit 15 minutes every day to art. Like that would be what, like it would be like a regimented thing.
Sure.
But maybe not.
So anyway, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say about it. That's the other thing that's like
because, you know, like I think, and this is why this book also falls flat as a book about art to me, is like art is so broad in this book. Like like there's like it's just like such a big umbrella. There's like no discussion about different, or I mean there is, like early on they set up different types of aesthetic experiences and they talk about different types of art, but overall there's not really an extended discussion about like I don't like about different kinds of art, like, you know, like what does it mean, I guess, to have, or like I mean, could there be a difference between trash art and other art? I don't know, something like that I'm curious about. Like there's so many questions there that I have that like, yeah, I actually do want to know, like, do my neurons fire differently when I'm watching like my trash reality TV versus something quality? Like that's something I would be really curious about. Like how does that affect me? Like there's so many more interesting questions, I feel like, for like those more specific aspects of art that like, because it's treated so broadly here, I like missed out on a lot of things I would have found interesting.
And like even within the chapters, it like they jump around from like different kinds of artistic experiences. Like I don't know, like even if you had reorganized taken the very sameness and focused on like, okay, we're gonna talk about music in this chapter, or like whatever, it might have been at least a little bit less aggressively like samey, and felt like you might have been able to draw some more like useful conclusions than just art good, which like that really truly is the only thing that came out of this, which I don't know, that's a conclusion that I already had. I walk to the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art almost every week, so like I don't know, I could have told you already, I am happier when I do that. Like, there's no it just I'm so frustrated with it not doing something different than the thing that it did, but I keep coming back to that point of like, maybe like this book is just not for me, and I'm bummed because I was excited about it. Alas.
That's what happens sometimes. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, now I'm like in the meta version of this book where I'm like, I would have loved a chapter about this book that's like, what is your brain like when you engage with art that you don't like?
Right.
Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What does that do?
What's happening? What
happens when you're like challenged?
Yes. Or art that you don't like, or art that you don't understand. Like, what's the, like, you know, what's the experience of like, again, you know, using the like walking around the museum example, you know, like, what is your experience if you're walking around the museum and you're not allowed to read any of the like the plaques, like, or whatever, like what, like how is that changing your experience? Like how are you, I don't know. Instead of just telling me over and over again that people are happier when they engage with art. Like,
Nick has a great question for the book, which is, what's a first-year art student's brain like?
I mean, yeah, like, yeah. Yes. These are good questions. Instead, they just said, it's like, it's just every researcher who ever found that looking at art made people happy. And then it ends with, and AI art is gonna be the future. And then I really truly was like, how dare you? how dare you do that?
Yeah, because that's like, it's so weird coming off of this book, which is like also not just about consuming art, it is about making art too.
Yeah.
And so it was like a really weird shift to be like, but like, here is like an AI artist who's gonna like doing all this cool stuff.
Yes. Like, just like truly wild to spend as much time as they did talking, mostly about making art. It was much more about making art than observing or consuming it. And to spend all of those pages talking about that and end on this note of like, AI art good, I, without having, you know, like dug into the studies, like, but the way that they are talking about this, like, categorically, you cannot tell me that people typing into DALL-E, I don't know what people are typing into DALL-E, hot lady librarian or whatever. and
that's the one. Right? That's what we're there for.
That's not achieving the same thing as sitting down and like drawing or whatever. Like, they're talking about like, you know, art for trauma, of like traumatic thing that happened to me, and then getting you know, whatever, a AI also, image, like that is not going to do the same
question
thing.
To explore.
That's
something that would actually have been interesting. I would be curious about like, what is your art, what is your brain on art that you're making, like by hand, on computer, and then also by AI, like how do those compare, like how do different art forms like do, like how does that actually, like, I would have followed them down that road. Even if they got to a different conclusion, I would have been like, I'm intrigued by, like, where you're going.
By what you're trying to do here. Yeah. Would have at least found the project interesting in a way that I did not find this project interesting.
Yeah. But, I mean, now we know all of these studies. we know of them. Because, like, it's just interesting that there's so like I think just going back to that flattening or like broadening of art it's like it seems like there's so much fertile ground to explore the differences between like making music and like painting or making a sculpture or like all of these different art forms and their effect on the brain. Like I think it would have been really cool. I think maybe you suggested this, like even like breaking it up by different art forms would have been really interesting potentially, like to explore. But
I also really love your proposed question too of like, you know, watching you know, a like the one of the like Bravo celebrity shows versus watch it, you know, like
only the finest of artwork.
Yeah, like what's the experience? How do you compare those two things? Like I actually had a loss for like what's the other end?
I don't know.
I don't know. Nick is here. Nick, what's the high cinema, highest of cinema to counterbalance that they should use in our hypothetical research? You know, we've got ideas. We've got ideas for you for where to take the research.
I mean, there's like the stereotype of like STEM students not being well trained in humanities that like does match up with my experience growing up as like a STEM student. Like, I mean, I double majored in English, but like that's like that was like at a tech school. I took a lot fewer English classes. Like it was not the same. But like, yeah, definitely like I feel like there's a lot of truth to that, like that kind of stereotype of like, man, these kids, they need to take some humanities. And that's what this book feels like. It feels like the kids who didn't take humanities and then came in and were like, but I know the humanities.
Yes.
Like, now I know.
Yes.
Like,
which is also very fucking tech of them.
Yeah.
Nick's proposal. Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey versus The Great Race season 58. So have somebody sit down.
Race?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because if so, I will have you know that The Amazing Race is quality television. It's too highbrow for me. Sometimes.
Okay. They're doing
I have this problem come up a lot where I will meet someone and they will be like, oh yeah, I watch reality TV, and they'll be like embarrassed about it, and I'll get so excited. I'll be like, oh, what do you watch? And they'll be like, I kind of just watch trash. Like I watch Top Chef. And I'm like,
you're like, you know, excuse
you, sir.
Like, we people of the gutter don't need you looking down on us.
Yeah.
With your Top Chef.
Yeah. You watch people with jobs. I'm sorry. I only watch people whose jobs are reality TV.
Okay, yeah.
The professionals.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. But yeah, what's your brain on Top Chef?
Yeah.
What's your brain on The Great Race?
Yeah. All reality TV or an all reality TV version of this to really drill down on like how high, you know, what's the highest of highbrow reality TV? Where are people's brains most engaged? You know, we have so many more interesting directions to take this. Somebody call us. We're ready to pitch you the sequel. Please don't hate us for being so mean about your book.
But we will run zero experiments because we are not neuroscientists.
No.
We can't be expected.
No. I
just know things.
No, incorrect. That's not what I do. Anyway, well, okay. So since we have Nick says like I'm going to be happier watching Troll 2 than watching 2001: A Space Odyssey. See, okay, yeah. And so that's the other thing too. Okay, I was gonna move us on, but like in terms of like the different like dimensions, it felt so thin in terms of like all of the different kinds of things that you can extrapolate from this book about what art is doing for people, what effects it's having on people. Because like to Nick's point, I'm going to be happier watching Troll 2 than watching 2001: A Space Odyssey, like in the sort of immediate moment of the thing. But then I would say like the sort of follow up from that is like what's the longer term, you know, like what's the immediate, what I don't know, helps you grow in some way or whatever other like kinds of questions. I don't know, I feel like I don't feel like enough I just don't feel like this. It felt so surface level. The whole thing felt so surface level.
Yeah.
Which it is really interesting that you brought up last month, like the immediate comparison of Empire Incorporated and this, because like the very, very strange book that went way too deep in a way that was like so dry, and so like you lost me back on like page 2, versus this, which just never went anywhere interesting. Yeah, there's like a weird flatness to the reading experience. Yeah.
Of like, this is all feels the same. I don't have a sense of like the dynamics of this book. There's no like rise and fall and like something like that's keeping me going with it.
Right. So anyway, that was our experience with Your Brain on Art. It is a book that we read, I don't know, 2 stars maybe, I think is where I land on it. It was fine. There are books I liked less that we've read.
It's so weird because it's like, it's one of those books where I came into this being like, I think the only reason we have stuff to say is because we've been doing this long enough that we like, it's interesting to us now when a book doesn't hit. Yeah. Like if we had read this early on, I feel like we would have been like, I don't know what to say. I have nothing to say. And now it's like, oh, okay, well, we have this whole like, oeuvre, I guess, that we've done. So like now we can compare it and we can like think about why it didn't hit compared to other books. Yes. But like compared to like The Girl on the Show, which is like a book that I remember very little of, except being really like, I don't even remember what I'm mad at anymore, but like I know I was mad.
That book was extremely white feminism was the really the big thing with that book. It had like an incredibly it was reductive about everything. It actually it wasn't just that was its sort of like biggest sin. Embarrassing. It actually lost me much earlier by being really reductive about Lucille Ball. It really pissed me off. Really pissed me off by talking about her and I Love Lucy as like, you know, just like homemaker type stuff, and like completely ignoring the fact that like that was her show. She was the comedian on the show, you know, et cetera, whatever. Anyway, we don't need to relitigate The Girl in the Show.
You can say we just did a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Yes. Is that a transition? Are we going to transition?
I think it is.
Oh my God.
We can transition now.
Okay. Let's see.
Very subtly.
Very subtle.
Transitioning us.
Yes. A very subtle transition. To talking about our little March Madness brackets. So are we ready? Are you ready for some results? I have them up in front of me.
Me
so
too.
My final 2 books were Consumed and Mood Machine. That was those were my semifinalists. And with 63.6% of the vote, Consumed advances to the finals. Consumed on Colonialism, Climate Change, Consumerism, and the Need for Collective Change by Aja Barber. And Deboki's final 2 books, her semifinalists were How Far the Light Reaches, A Life in 10 Sea Creatures by Sabrina Imbler, and The View from Somewhere, Undoing the Myth of Journalistic Objectivity by Louis Raven Wallace, and with 63.6% of the vote.
Oh.
The View
what about the overlap was? Like
yeah.
Was it all of the like same people voted for the same ones?
We can totally see it in the thing, individual. Link to sheets, cancel. Let's see. Okay, Mood Machine, How Far the Light Reaches, Mood Machine, The View from Somewhere. So like already the first two people who voted did not vote. Both of them voted for Mood Machine.
Okay, we have a ballot with opposites.
Yeah. So I'm a little sad for How Far the Light Reaches. I'm honestly that is not a book I expected to make it this far anyway. I was stunned that it made it to the semifinals.
Honestly, I was actually surprised by both of them making it. Partly just because The View from Somewhere was like so long ago. That was so early on.
Yeah, but like, the View from Somewhere at least had the advantage of The View from the Somewhere was in the fast track bracket, So it didn't have
True.
to, it didn't, that's Mood Machine too. I don't think Mood Machine would have made it to the semifinals if I had put it in a different one. But
yeah,
I did actually intentionally. I was like, no, I love this book. I'm not surprised that it lost here. I did my best. I gave her my best shot. This was as far as she was ever gonna go. But the View from Somewhere, you had a real like that combo. That was a tough one actually. Both of those, How Far the Light Reaches and The View from Somewhere. I don't know. I loved actually all four of these books. I loved. So I was like, we'll see.
And I feel like they cover like such a good range of like the topics that I think are most near and dear to us.
Yeah.
Here. Like we've got this like interesting combination of like objectivity. We've got the like surveillance capitalism kind of wrapped up into the like. Well, I guess now Moon Machine is gone, but like Well, no,
but of the four, across the four, yes.
Like Moon Machine had like. And then like definitely the consumerism and How Far the Light Reaches. I think like just like partly we don't do that much like memoir-ish stuff. Like that's maybe the most memoir-ish, and so in some ways it's really unique in that way. But then I think the way that Sabrina like brings in all of these different themes and like wraps it up with their like personal life is like very like up. Like I think the alley of like a lot of people who read with us. So it's really interesting.
The How Far the Light Reaches is also the closest example here of thing, like the thing books. So we have a bunch of them that are I don't know, like I'm thinking about Worn is one, the Whale book, Fathoms, books where like clothing, and we're gonna like talk about the history of the world through clothes. That's Worn. Whale, Fathoms is also very much that. Whale, so like How Far the Light Reaches isn't quite that. It's not quite that. It's like still a little, but it is the clothes. That's a thing that we have done a lot of and isn't quite represented here, except How Far the Light Reaches is as close as we got to a thing book.
Anyway. Should we set up a poll and while people are voting?
Let's I'll do it. Okay, hold on. Let's find it. Where is it? Okay. I will set up a poll. Top chat. No, I don't want to do top chat. How do I do a poll in the middle of a thing? Live chat. Okay. This has been a time of great technical difficulty. Start a poll. Okay. Non-fiction book club bracket winner.
What I'll say while you're doing that, one of the things I would love to know from you is sort of like what were any, or like from all of you in the chat too, like what were the disappointments, like the things that you like were hoping would make it but didn't. Ooh, like I really want to know, because I had a few. I'm like trying to go back now and like remember some of the ones that hit me. I think the Battle of Versailles I was hoping would somehow, like I didn't think it would go far. Like I was surprised how far it made it. But I was like kind of hoping, because it's like another one of those books that for us is a little bit funny. And I was kind of hoping
it would it's one of my favorites. Go further. It is definitely one of my favorites. Was sad to
and another one for me is On Immunity, because I know On Immunity is kind of a weird book, but it's definitely for me like would like hit a lot of things that I like really enjoyed. But I'm also not surprised, but also a little bit, because The Mushroom at the End of the World was also a funny, weird book. But that was another very early nonfiction book club book.
Yes, on Immunity, that one is like a mixed one for me. That one was I don't even remember what poll it was in, but that one I was like easily not that one.
Interesting.
Not because I didn't dislike it, but I had issues with that book, and so it just doesn't live as strongly in my feelings for that reason. However,
are we voting too? I'm gonna vote.
I can't vote because I started the poll.
Oh, okay. Then I will also abstain from voting.
I'm not allowed to vote. It's okay. I
will abstain then too.
Let's see.
We decided like that this is actually a consensus on our book picks.
Yeah, well,
and whoever wins gets to let the other person take it deeply personally.
Yeah, I did. I mentioned this in my big like crazy long book building my bracket, but in case you did not watch that and are watching this, we did actually intentionally do it this way, where we like set up our stuff on either side specifically to make sure that we both made it to the finals, because we were like, I would be sad. I just know I would take it personally. Even though there are like several books of mine that I also would be like, no. The Girl in the Show, which we already talked about, I absolutely think deserves to lose every first round. Now, well, Your Brain on Art wasn't a contender, but I wouldn't, if we do this again in a few years, it's I wouldn't want it to come. Maybe if we do this again next year, maybe we maybe we don't, whatever, but if we were to do something like this again next year, we could take this year's worth of books and then maybe some of the the best performing books from just like we like pre-eliminate and not bother, like do a smaller list, do like 16 each, so including everything we pick this year and then however many, whatever, that's 6 books and then like 10 more to get us each to 16. I don't know, that's a hypothetical an idea. But whatever wins this one is automatic. Like if you win, right, you're done. You have your championship, go home. No repeats here. No repeats. And then if we're still doing nonfiction book club for many years, we can have an all-stars edition.
Let's wait till our 50th anniversary.
Nonfiction book club from the nursing home. We're gonna bring you our all-stars edition. It'll be great. It'll be so fun.
So going back to my original question, what are your favorites on your side? Sorry, we got distracted.
Let's see. The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, kind of always, but she did well. She made it pretty far in the bracket. Let's see. Hold on. That's what I was in the middle of doing, was I was pulling up on my, because we're on Discord, obviously. Everybody's been staring at my screen for the last 50 minutes. But I was going to pull up the bracket email. I don't know. Big with you on Battle of Versailles was really sad for that one. Read Dangerously is another one that I really liked. Anansi's Gold. Okay, so I love Consumed. I've read it so many times. I'm happy she made it all the way here. It's a great book. I actually did not vote for it in the Anansi's Gold Consumed round. I just really also love Anansi's Gold. That was like a disappointing early KO for me. I
also like support Consumed making it all the way, but I think I might have voted for The Great Displacement over it. Just because I really like that book.
I also The Great Displacement was another one that I really loved, and like think about a lot, especially because I don't know, that's in like fairness to all the books. The thing about The Great Displacement is I was reading that book while I was in the middle of buying a house, so like it was like a very I don't know, just like personally thematically resonant experience. So like I don't know, there's just a lot of things about that book. I mean, I don't know, this disappointing book, I'm also in the middle of, not to get like too into it, but like a lot of like therapy right now, and was, even when this book turned out to be not the thing that I was expecting it to be, I was like trying so hard to be like, oh, okay, maybe there's something else that I can take from this, and then there wasn't. The Great Displacement. Rachel says, let's see. So people in the chat answers. Colby also said The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, and Rachel says the space books, Disordered Cosmos and The End of Everything. But also she gets it to that, and A City on Mars. I loved A City on Mars. That was so fun.
Yep. Yeah, but it was up against Battle of Versailles. That was like true. Our little affectionate corner one.
Yes. froze my screen again by being so yes. I think I may be gone and won't be coming back, so that's fine. We're almost done. It is what it is. Okay, I think we've done it. We've yapped.
You're still here though, right?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm
okay,
here.
Cool. It's a little disconcerting. I'm like, are you here?
No.
Am I just going to be talking to myself?
Yes, just you and yourself and my little icon.
Yeah.
And I think that Consumed has won.
Congratulations.
I'm ending it right now. 5 votes. Democracy in action. All right. Well, did you pick a book? Or we didn't talk about it. Usually we talk about it beforehand, but if you picked a book, you can just say it, and that's fine. I'm happy to read it. I don't care.
I have like a stack of books, so we can do the same thing we did last time.
Ooh, yeah, okay. Let's do it again. Let's do another poll.
So I will say that currently I am, or at least for this round of Nonfiction Book Club, just in general, all of the books right now that I'm buying are research about like reproduction and like reproductive justice and evolution of reproduction. So I'm not going to do this every time, but I figured it would be okay to one time do this, is like just have everyone pick the book like that I need to read for my research. And so they're going to all be reproduction oriented. But again,
perfect.
Don't worry, I'm not going to do this every time if you're deeply bored of reproduction. So I have 3 books that I bought recently. The first is Infinite Life, the revolutionary story of eggs, evolution, and life on Earth. And then we've got The Big Freeze, a reporter's personal journey into the world of egg freezing and the quest to control our fertility.
The subtitles are too long. I'm only putting the
go for it. Yeah, I'll remind you guys.
Cool.
And then the last one is I'm Sorry for My Loss, an urgent examination of reproductive care in America. So I'm only giving you guys the subtitles so that you kind of know what they vaguely are, because we like to shortcut. So we've got Infinite Life, which is evolution of eggs. We've got The Big Freeze, which is about egg freezing. And we've got I'm Sorry for My Loss, which is about reproductive care. I started reading this, and so like maybe just one thing to note for this one, for anyone who wants to know, like there is like description of the authors going through pregnancy loss. So if that's something that you don't want to read, which I totally understand, like that's just something to keep in mind for this one. And like this is The Big Freeze is also about the reporter going through egg freezing, but I haven't started reading it, so I don't know if there's anything there content wise that might be something people don't want to stay. And I don't know about Infinite Life, since it's more evolution. I think it's less about like an individual. So challenging book for people in that way.
Okay.
Should I vote? I'll let everyone else vote.
All right. Yeah, I know you can vote. That's fine. There's 2 votes. So I feel like
Yep. That's good.
Only the most committed people are tuning in for deciding what our next book is. We love democracy here, so
we will take as little voter participation as you guys want, and otherwise we'll return to establishing our own choices.
Yeah, I don't know. I love the poll mechanism. I feel like it's a vibe. It's a good time.
Yeah. We can also give people a few minutes if they're like looking up the books and trying to figure out maybe
right. That is like a rational thing to do in this moment. And unlike us just being like, I don't know, man, we told you a subtitle.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm also looking up what books have audiobooks. So I'm sorry for my loss does.
Yeah.
Infinite Life does.
And so does the Big Freeze.
Cool.
Have you, Colby asks if you have read Eve by Claire Horn.
Do you have, and we can add that to the list. I was making the stack and I've started reading it and I do find it really interesting. So like we could add that to the poll, but people have already voted.
Yeah. Well, I feel like at the end of the next nonfiction book club, we can add a little segment for you to do your like syllabus, of like so we'll do the book that we're actually going to discuss, and then you can be like, if you wanted to know more about this, pick up this book. If you wanted to know more about this, pick up this book. And
Eve has been really interesting. I will say it's really, really like. And it's less strictly reproduction focused, though it is a big like part of the book as well, since it's about like the evolution of the like female body. And I read the first 2 chapters and I really, really enjoyed them and just like need to get back into it. There's like a whole syllabus that, like you said, like I can share it if anybody else wants to like read it with me because I need to get this reading going.
Okay, well, with that, guys, I think we did it. We did a live stream. I have sometimes been here. It's fitting that I'm not here at the end. But join us next month. And I have to end the poll. Infinite Life clearly won the poll.
Are we reading?
Infinite Life is the winner of our poll. Hooray for democracy.
It's also the smallest book. So
incredible. Somebody maybe they were looking at that. That was hold them up again. That's what I want. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and we'll see you in June sometime to talk about Infinite Life. Yay!